So Stuart, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here at Next World Forum, and for me to actually get the opportunity to speak to you. You're a company that I think behind the scenes in the industry, a lot of people seem to know, but maybe consumers and others in the industry might not actually be aware of the influence that your company currently has. So I'm going to give you this opportunity to have a little bit of an elevator pitch of what RTS actually is.
Thank you. Yeah, so RTS is a talent management and talent ventures firm. We also have a brand consulting area to our business as well. Most famously, we co-own Evo with Sony PlayStation, and our co-founder Pokimane has been part of that, and she's also a big part of our talent management side of the business as well, and kind of helps steer us along.
So I definitely want to talk about Evo first. I think it's the one which a lot of people are talking about. It's broken player viewership records, player actually active competition records, right, as well. When did RTS start getting involved in Evo, in operating Evo? Because I think it's quite interesting to see a talent agency and a brand marketing agency actually own and operate a esports tournament alongside Sony as well.
Yeah, so for us, I mean, we've been talking to the Evo team for a long time, and then the pandemic hit, and it was difficult. But that was when we were part of the Endeavor group, and within that group, we have a large production group. We've got people like my colleague Mincy Ko, who was the commissioner at E-League. Has huge background in tournament operations and live events. So we have that kind of string to our bow, and we formed the joint venture in 2021. Right coming towards the end of the pandemic. That year we ran an Evo online, just to kind of flush the pipes. But last year was really our first year back in earnest in Vegas. We hired Rick Thayer as our GM, and brought on more and more people from the FGC. We already had Mark Julio as part of that as well. And as we learned so many lessons last year that we were then able to kind of put into action this year. And I think you saw the best of all that the parties in this have to offer this year.
So talking about the fighting game community in general, does it amaze you that we're still seeing growth in this community, or is it something that actually fighting games has been an underserved community for a while, and actually now this is giving the treatment it kind of deserves, I guess?
I certainly would say that it's getting the treatment it deserves. I think the FGC is only going to grow further. We're about to enter kind of a renaissance in terms of new titles coming out, as well as just new franchises entering the space. And I think it's really exciting. I think you could see at Evo kind of the volume of first-time Evo attendees also jumped, both last year and this year. So you're seeing a whole new wave of FGC attendees and participants in this space. So I think the FGC's got room to grow and grow and grow. I think also what you see is it's truly globally accessible, which is not necessarily the case for all esports titles, and I think that is only going to bode well going into the future.
I think what's really interesting as well is from a commercial standpoint with Evo, how did these commercial conversations kind of go? Because the likes of, I think the main one that I realized was Crunchyroll getting involved. How did these conversations start spurning, and actually how did the relationship between Evo and Crunchyroll form?
Yes, that's one of the areas that we as RTS kind of bring to the table. Actually, Crunchyroll is a Sony entity, so there's a natural connection there. But building out these commercial partnerships is key, and to do it in a way that's authentic. So for Crunchyroll, last year we did a survey at the show. It's like, what are the other areas of interest you have? And over 50% of the attendees said they watch anime. So it's a natural expansion point for us there. We're able to distribute the content onto Crunchyroll, bring them on the floor, and it was really exciting to see those worlds cross over. On the show floor, you could watch the first episode of Jujutsu Kaisen. Really, really exciting kind of like value add for the people who attended. But then more broadly, thinking of our title sponsor was Chipotle. And this was a really exciting partnership that we put together where, not only was Evo a part of it, but also Combo Breaker, also East Coast Throwdown, as we kind of unite the FGC events along the way. And then further to that, we were able to bring in Capcom with activations around Street Fighter and in-game codes, and then also PlayStation. So, there's promotion going on in PlayStation as part of this big kind of collective partnership from experiential through to traditional spots and dots media, and then in-game as well. And the community loved it. We built this, and this is kind of it's not even secret sauce, it's just doing it the right way, where we have people from the fighting game community in the ideation of this campaign, in the ideation of this partnership, and a brand who's really willing to listen to that. So when it gets to the point where if you make it out of pools at Evo, you get a burrito code, people love that because there were so many people in pools. It made everyone feel like a winner. And thus, the end result of this was Sunday in the arena at Evo, when that Chipotle ad came on, everyone was chanting for Chipotle. And it's like building the partnership the right way from the ground up with the right partners was key to all of this.
Is that something that, in a way, esports has kind of lacked on a little bit when it comes to sponsors? I feel like beginning with esports, it was very much, here is a sponsor, put the name on the jersey, a very traditional sports kind of way of doing things. Do you think that actually it's all about engaging and making sure that the partner and the game title or the tournament are connected in a way? And do you think that's really important for brands as well?
Yeah, I've been in esports since 2004 was my first event, so I've seen the good and the bad, and I definitely think we veer a little bit too much towards sports style sponsorships as opposed to celebrating what we're really good at. And when brands come into esports and their approach authentically, they work with the community and you kind of meet them where they are, they get massive results. You see all the survey data that comes out of, we are an audience who are skeptical but very welcoming to brands when done the right way. And so I do agree with your point that I think we need to listen a little bit more when we build out these big campaigns.
I think an interesting point as well, which I want to speak to you about, is the creator space and how, well, I'm going to ask you the question how can esports utilize the creator space, even more? Because we are starting to see that little bit of a crossover starting to come through.
So we've got two big examples with an RTS. So first of all, Pokimane at Evo is big. Fans love her there. She's an authentic participant. She knows the FGC is not where she came from, but she loves the vibe of it. She loves being there. Last year she was just on the show floor. This year she was even playing Project L, a Riot booth. She's in stream chatting with people, and it's really exciting to see. So you can see kind of a cross-pollination of audiences there. But then also, Disguised Toast is one of our creators. We're investors in DSG, and you're trying to support him there on the business side as he builds that out. And you can see with what he's done to build out the team of DSG and the content strategy for DSG that his focus is, again, on solving a problem. He's got the inbuilt audience, and he's got a desire to solve problems within, particularly the amateur side of the community, and grow teams that way, and grow teams the right way, and give people a chance. That crossover is going to keep happening, and I think it's going to be for the better.
What are some of the, for creators wanting to actually engage more with esports, what are some of the do's and don'ts kind of thing? Because I think there is, as much as there is positives that have come through with creators coming in, there is negatives in the sense of that a creator could come in and then maybe not be fully prepared, and then that project ends, prematurely, and it kind of gives like a bad reputation. What would you say is good for a creator looking to kind of go into the esports space and invest in it in that sense?
Well, I'd certainly listen to Toast. He tells you just how expensive it is to be in esports, and those lessons are out there from pro teams to creator teams in terms of this is not a short-term play, this is an investment, and I would say that that's the number one thing to look out for, and figure out where, and this would be true whether you're a creator, whether you're a brand, whatever you are, figure out where you add value. And as a creator, you natively add value by having a community, having the audience that you can bring in, elevating those players, and turning some of those players into creators themselves. That's probably step one, and then step two is the business planner and how to commercialize that and support it long term.
So for RTS, what are you looking to do kind of outside of Evo in terms of growing yourselves as a company? Are you looking at many more different avenues within esports or within the creator side?
Yeah, certainly. So, Talent Ventures is our kind of long-term thesis in terms of leveraging the opportunities that creators have to build more and more businesses around them. So Evo is one, Support DSG is two, we have a third coming out later this year, and you have a healthy pipeline there of things that are coming down the pipe, and then furthermore can lend our skill sets to others in terms of kind of a work for hire work. Our team, as I mentioned, have done so many esports events over the years that we have, in my opinion, one of the most skilled kind of production groups out there, and in terms of tournament execution and vision, that's something we work with others on as well.
As a final question then, to talk about the esports landscape as a whole, there is a bit of negativity towards investment in esports and the state and growth of esports, and maybe it's going through a little bit of a reshuffling. Do you think that kind of creators getting involved and streamers getting involved in that economy kind of going into that will help the ecosystem as a whole?
I think it certainly will. I think the struggle we have is as we move towards ultra professionalization, we removed a lot of the avenues through which esports players and teams could monetize. And that, kind of took a little bit of the wind out of the sails. And when you have the creators coming in with their teams and the inbuilt audience, it gives a new way to monetize. If you roll back so maybe 7 or 8 years, you look at kind of TSM and Cloud9, I was working at Twitch in those days, they were 4 or 5% of our entire site traffic. So they had a massive inventory that they could sell against. That's now an entirely different ecosystem, and pro players are not creating content in the way they once did. The creators can come in, and guide the pro players kind of back to how to integrate content into their personality more natively, but secondly, they also have their inbuilt audience there, and that gives some inventory back to the teams as an entity to sell, which is going to be level one of how we build long-term, sustainable, sellable infrastructure within esports for all parties.
I guess, like you said, it's quite interesting when you actually look at brands and how esports, even organizations, started. It started with a group of friends who were like, oh, well, we'll just create a team. Now that team became a business. So you think it is kind of going back to that origin of esports and what actually made esports popular in the first place then?
Yeah, when I was playing, the dream was to get a server sponsor. Could you hit up multiplayer and get a free, server or something like that? And you had to work out how you would add value back to that sponsor, and that was to try and save £50 a month. Now we're on how do you save £500,000 a month and how do you build a business around that? And it's very, very different. But I do think that, to your previous question in terms of the negativity, I do think the thoughts of esports demise are a little overblown. I think we are maybe in a little bit of a correction. It's also part of a more macroeconomic correction. And I think we've just got to innovate on our value that we're offering back to the market, and I think it'll all come good.
As one last question, we are at Next World Forum, so I wanted to do a little bit of a play with the word next. What do you think is the next big development then in esports?
I think the FGC is going to be at the forefront of that. I think the next level of titles that are coming out in the FGC are going to really drive that forward as the next part of esports. And I think we're looking then, once you're outside of the FGC, I think we're looking for innovation in games and genres, because we're in a little bit of a slump of esports titles. We're in a little bit of a slump generally as a games industry of the next hot game, and I think that will drive both for esports and the creator economy something really impressive to come.
Stuart, it's been a pleasure to chat with you, and hopefully you've enjoyed the event.
Yes, thank you for having me.